As entrepreneurs, there's a reason why we decided to leave our 9 to 5 for an 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. I'm here to tell the story of why we all hustle and grind for our companies. On today's podcast, I'm speaking with Anderson Salgado. So, Anderson, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. You have a lot of different experiences, specifically around like sales, plus an investment, plus a podcast. So, we're going to talk about all those today. Really happy to have you on. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, brother. Much appreciated. Much appreciate your time and your enthusiasm to just get some information going.
Absolutely. So, first thing I want to talk about, since this is such a huge hot button issue, you used to work for Amazon, if I remember correctly, and you now have an agency helping people to be able to create sell on Amazon. So, I'd like to hear a little bit about that. There's so much buzz behind it. There's so many different people out there going, "Hey, we have these Amazon agencies. We help these people build Amazon things," and there's a lot of discussion around it. So, I wanted to have you say, in your words, kind of what is that agency that you have as far as helping people build around Amazon? Like, what does it include? That sort of a thing. Just give me some more reality on it.
Yeah, so just backtracking a little bit,
Yeah.
this all started 2017, as a matter of fact. So as I left Amazon, I helped a brand launch and accelerate growth on Amazon while I was working at Amazon. I was a category leader, 2,500 brands, a book of business of $1.7 billion. And I helped this brand primarily work on Amazon growth and optimization. They were already well recognized in the industry, but they needed Amazon to be the amplification methodology of EBITDA and growth and just showcasing a better path of least resistance in terms of e-commerce amplification. And not to sound too crazy or redundant, the idea was to go from zero to hero in a short period of time. And as you know, a lot of the brands want to get acquired want to do this in a short period of time. I helped them go from 13 million to 22 to 33 million in less than 2 years.
Mhm.
And using that methodology, they were able to get acquired for 400 million. So, make a long story shorter, I said to myself, well, if I can do this while I'm at Amazon, I can certainly do it out of Amazon, that I have way more freedom and more less risk on understanding really what the process could be to help this brand, not just on Amazon, but somewhere else like Shopify or any of the retail methodology that they're using, but using Amazon as an anchor. And that anchor could be that marketing initiative. Back in 2017, nobody was doing Amazon optimization. There were only a few agencies that really had something. And now, again, you see agencies left and right that claim to have the Amazon solution because, again, it turns into a cash cow. So for us was more boutique oriented, grabbing the brands, being a part of the brand, understanding really what their end goal is, and more importantly, to really capture the essence of the brand using the Amazon algorithm and the Amazon methodology. A lot of the brands don't understand how Amazon works, and Amazon turns into a profit killer most of the time because you're paying 40% margins to them. On top of that, you pay your customer acquisition and customer retention costs, and you can retarget those customers because you don't know who they are. So you're
Mhm.
constantly paying that new customer acquisition fee. And now your split is somewhere between 60-40 or 70-30, and that the worst case scenario. On top of that, you got to pay for your own products. So what I did was design something that is more beneficial to the brand to understand really your 3-year term, your 3-year long-term approach.
Mhm.
As an example, if you were to have a brand and I go and say to you, okay, where do you want to go in the next 3 years? You want to get acquired? Do you want to be the acquisitor? Like, are you the one acquiring small companies? Or is this just that you're a family business and you wanted to turn it into a nice cash cow so you have a 10-year plan and sell it in the next 10 years? And a lot of brands don't have that vision. So understanding that vision is ideal first,
Mhm.
then breaking it down into milestones. The next 6 months, we're just going to concentrate on X. A majority of that X is like brand identity, understanding really where you are in the market share, really fine tuning your content, getting reviews, and exploiting as much as possible your organic sales. Then we're concentrating in more exposure. What are some of the surrounding platforms that we're going to be investing upon? We're going to be invested upon, whether it is TikTok or Instagram or anything that is feeding Amazon. And
Mhm.
any advertising that we do on Amazon, and then rinse and repeat. So the process is like there's no really secret sauce, but
Mhm.
the process and the sequence of the processes is what makes a brand succeed in that particular ecosystem. So we have very good digestible chunks and milestones that we break down for the brands. We understand really what the goals look like, and then how to get there is the ideal process. Once we have that, then just stick to those action driven items. A lot of brands like to change, like, well, we spent $10,000 and we only got $40,000 back. No, that's good. We
Mhm.
we planned for that. But we could have done more. Yeah, yeah, you could have done more. But think about it, and I put a lot of analogies behind my process so it can resonate with them. If you're an
Mhm.
athlete and all of a sudden, you're pushing whatever. Let's say you get back in the gym and now you're doing 225 bench press.
Mhm.
They're like, hey, that's great. Now next week we're gonna go for 230. No, but I think I could do 260. Yeah, but you could also get hurt, right? And now if you get hurt, you're going to not just not do 225, but you're not gonna be able to work out for the next 2 weeks. So let's
Mhm.
go 230, 235, 240, and then we do this progressive approach versus trying to go all in. A lot of brands don't have the patience. They
Yeah.
think that once they do 50,000, they can do 100,000. You can't
Mhm.
support it. You don't have the inventory. We can't support it in advertising, and then you're gonna get the wrong customers because you're gonna dilute your brand equity and your pricing a ton. So
Mhm.
again, there's a method to the madness, and we come up with a very fine-tuned white glove treatment to get brands there.
Yeah, because Amazon is, from what I understand about Amazon, and I'm not an expert, but just a basic understanding is it's really different marketing on Amazon and using them as kind of your foundation than it is going out, opening a Shopify store and doing the standard advertising marketing that we're used to. Amazon's a whole
Hmm.
different world. It's something that we think
And
about.
it's
So
always changing. And
yeah,
so
yeah.
the rules of engagement and the rules of the game change often because Amazon wants to keep you on your toes
Mhm.
most of the time. And then
Yeah.
they now introduce other things that are like hands off the wheel approach. The algorithm will add a different attributes and different data sets to make it more difficult for the brands to really gain a competitive advantage. I mean, they're always changing things. So if you're not on top of those changes, then you're going to run into a lot of different complications that will hurt your brand in the long term.
Yeah, and it's kind of like the Google slap, but I think in the Amazon world it happens even more frequently because Amazon's constantly trying to kind of figure out new ways to do things. And if somebody gets really good at something, now bam, you get the Amazon slap, and we do something new now.
That,
Yeah.
that's right. Again, another analogy is like if you're some sort of athlete or a MMA fighter, and all of
Yeah.
a sudden it's like, oh no, you can actually use a chair. And you're like, dude, I haven't used a chair to hit anybody. So
Yep.
Amazon loves to do that. Or
Yeah.
they'll limit your time frame, right? It is you were exposed to a particular audience, and all of a sudden that audience is no longer available to you because the category has changed, or they put you in a different product segmentation, or they eliminate your review visibility. Again, I'm being a nerd right now, but they limit
Okay.
your review visibility in order for them to force customers to shop on their mobile device. So
Mm.
all those little nuances add up to a ton of differentiation from last month to now, and what
Mm.
was working a month ago doesn't work anymore.
Exactly. Now, I know there's a lot of companies. There was a huge blow up of companies would say, look, you put $25,000 down, we'll build the entire Amazon thing for you, entire Amazon store for you. And that ended up blowing up in a major way. And what are some of the warning signs you would look for again, there's a lot of stuff around Amazon. There's a lot of people out there. It's like marketing. Some are good, some are not. What are some of the things you'd look for and some of the things that your agency does um, differently than the rest? So some of the warning signs and some of the things that your agency does differently.
Yeah, so think about this, right? And I always say anything easy or anything that sounds too good to be true is probably not.
Yep.
We don't sugarcoat things. If you come to me and say, Andrew, Anderson, I have this, a brand and we are doing $1 million or $500,000 on Amazon. We did 500,000 last year. We want to do 1.2 million this year. Those are realistic expectations, right? There's a time frame. But if you
Mhm.
come to me as like, Henderson, we want to do $5 million this year. Well, how much have you done? 500,000. Very unrealistic expectations. Another analogy is like me getting into track and field, and all of a sudden I want to go to the Olympics. Dude, you are completely out of your league. It won't happen.
Okay.
So we have to have those realistic expectations. I never come to a brand, or neither does my team, that we're working with, and all of a sudden it's like the brand wants to do $1 million and they have done zero sales. We won't happen unless you have $400,000 in advertising that you can spend right away for you to see $1 million.
Yeah.
And that's normally 99% of the time not the case. So, just as a warning, and a lot of things that you brought up with agencies or companies saying, we'll build this Shopify for you and we'll do this thing. That sounds way too good to be true.
Mhm.
I won't say that all of them are a sham. Not all of them are a scam. Not all of them are illegitimate, but most of them are. And the
Yeah.
reason why they are is because they want to take your money first to build something that you still have to put a ton of time and effort. But the
Mhm.
key word is you can build this in a month or 30 days or 60 days. That's very unrealistic,
Yeah.
right? Anytime, I always think of ways to say to people, if it's too fast, it's probably not legitimate and or it's illegal. Right?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
if you see a guy again, if you see a guy at the gym and he was skinny and a month ago, now he's jacked. That dude's probably doing steroids, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
the chances
And a
that
lot
he
of them.
is
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly 99%. So when I say, why does it have to be fast and easy?
Yeah.
Anything fast and easy never results in anything long lasting, right?
Mhm.
Fast and it's like get abs in 30 days. Dude, that's really cool, but
Mhm.
it's very unrealistic. And anything fast and easy does not come with the struggles. And the
Yeah.
struggles is sometimes you make a decision that is not the best, but that leads to the better decision later on. I give
Mhm.
you an example. We had a brand and we were doing exceptionally well in Canada. And all
Mhm.
of a sudden, Canada put a bunch of restrictions. We were doing about $1 million in Canada. That's unheard of because Amazon is tiny in comparison to the US.
Mhm.
We're doing $1 million in Canada. We were doing about $3 million in the US. The ratio was outrageous in terms of, what we were doing in Canada versus in the US. And I said to my team, something's wrong.
Mhm.
It's like, what do you mean? It's like, there's no way we're doing $1 million in Canada.
Mhm.
Why not? Because the ratio, if you think about it from a population perspective,
Yeah.
population in Canada is the size of California or less,
Yeah. It's
right?
about 10% of the US. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so if you think about it from that perspective, there's no way that our ratio right now is 33% of our total sales to Canada. Something's wrong.
Mhm.
Fast forward 6 months later, and I'm like, guys, something's wrong, something's off. The inventory that was essentially being shipped to Canada was cheaper in Canada than it was in the US. So what the US was doing on the Amazon side is that they were grabbing the inventory from Canada and shipping it to the US because that
Um,
cost was better. And I'm like, dude, I knew it. Like the demographic, it didn't show it. It just didn't make any sense. Then they suppressed the product, and then we're doing like 50,000 or $100,000 in Canada. And I'm like, I knew something was wrong. So if
yeah.
it's too fast and too easy, it's not the right strategy. It's not legitimate, and then potentially you're gonna come up with multiple issues on that front simply because you're trying to do something that is not natural.
Yeah.
If you have this agency that claims to do your Amazon and everything's going to be great, just pay us $20,000, we'll get it all done for you. If you think about the demographic that they're targeting, it's people who are normally either retired, they have some sort of disposable income that they could use, they want to get back into the game, or they want to have something of their own. And
Yeah.
that's the easiest way to fall into a trap of something that they really have no knowledge of. And it's going to be built fast and easy. So stay
Yeah.
away from anything that says fast and easy.
Absolutely. I think that's true for just about anything in life.
Anything.
Anything. If you're going to go through it and you're going to be, you actually want to properly call yourself an entrepreneur, and you're going to have to go through the suck. There's no other way around it, but the thing that is, you will learn and you will build yourself to such an extent that you will be a significantly stronger person on the other end. There's a lot more upside than down, but we got to go through it. You got to go through it. Yeah.
Hey,
So
sometimes the only way to go through something or to go and be successful at something is to go, as you stated, through it.
yeah.
And one of the things that I normally push brands into
Mhm.
is you cannot support that right now.
No.
Like, what do you mean? You cannot support $1 million in sales if you go from 0 to 1 million because you don't have the manufacturing capabilities, or you don't have the inventory, or you don't have the capacity in terms of personnel. And if you do, luckily, get into that point, you have to have a really solid foundation to get it done, right? That there's got to be a lot of preemptive work behind the scenes that you'll see the unicorns. Also, you're not you're not special, right? Like I always say this to my kids, and my kids get upset. It's like, dude, you're not any more special than anybody else. But you know what makes you special? The dedication that you put into it, the grit that you put into it, the amount of work that you put into it, the inputs will match the outputs. If your
Mhm.
inputs do not match the outputs, then you're like another brand, like another person out there that is just getting by.
Yeah.
So I agree with you in terms of really understanding that again, you have to go through it and the pain and suffering, but that's how you get to the next level. When you put the pain and suffering, the inputs need to match the output.
Absolutely. So I want to pivot for a second and just ask,
Yep.
how did you get a job at Amazon, and how did you get into this to begin with? What was the series of events that brought you to Amazon brands?
So let's back the story 2015, 2015. I was graduating from my MBA school. Amazon likes to recruit from Ivy League schools. Majority of them are like Harvard, Princeton, yeah, Cornell, Dartmouth.
Mhm.
You name it. They normally go to really good Ivy League schools to do some recruiting. I was fortunate enough, but I graduated from University of Miami. 2015, University of Miami came in higher rankings on the MBA class, and they sent
Mhm.
some recruiters from Amazon to go and do some recruiting.
Oh, cool.
Couple of my buddies got some interviews with them, and they're like, man, it's just crazy. I had like 6 interviews. It was just painful, blah blah blah. I'm like, hey man, I love to go through an interview process with Amazon.
Uh-huh.
I was doing government contracting back then, and I got through a leadership program they call leadership development program, and I was on the more on the fulfillment side. So if you get recruited, then you're dealing with like all the fulfillment center, whether it is one or multiple. You're at a certain level. They give you 400 people underneath you, etc. And I've always been somewhat articulate to express my point of view or answer any questions, and I kind of winged it. I did some preliminary research, but I didn't do my due diligence, and I didn't get selected. So I
Mhm.
went through this 4 interview process, and I got a call. It's like, hey, you're not what we're looking for, and I was pissed because I didn't prepare enough, right?
Yeah.
But then fast forward 2 months later, I'm about to graduate. I'm like 3 months away from graduation. And I get another call or another email saying it's like, hey, although the other program didn't work out, we would love to interview you for this other program. It was still a leadership development program,
Mhm.
but I guess they saw something in me, but I just wasn't well prepared to that particular role.
Mhm.
Um, so I did the interview, but this time around, man, I slept very little, prepared for about 3 weeks, to actually 2 weeks nonstop.
Mhm.
Um, study all the leadership principles, understood, like read all the books, understood really how to nail down the interview process from Amazon. And it was an 8 interview process, and
Mhm.
I nailed it. And then they make you the offer, and then you go work in Washington State and Seattle. But the process itself, and just for anybody who perhaps wants to get hired by Amazon, it has not changed. The way it works well is that they
Mhm.
ask you interview questions that are more open ended, And
Okay.
some of the questions are like, what have you done in the past that you used analytical processing to get something across your organization that your supervisor or your manager was not in alignment with? How did you get through it?
Mhm.
The way to frame it is you use the Amazon leadership principles to answer the question in a
Huh.
form of a story. Dude,
Huh.
there is an art to that crazy madness of Amazon.
Oh, that's awesome.
And and
Huh.
and and the way that you frame it is, okay, so you have 14 leadership principles and you create, hypothetically speaking, 3 or 4 stories that encompass that particular leadership principle. So
Yeah.
you can apply that same story to a time where you had, again, you use analytical skills or data-driven decisions in order for you to get a point across, or you use that particular story to know why you are customer obsessed, or you apply that same story of how you hire and develop the best. So essentially, you build frameworks to answer the question, and any of the questions that they're going to answer, you're going to answer it with those 4 different stories. So the
Mhm.
idea behind it became really revealing to me that the process was more valuable than the answer.
Hmm.
And that's how they frame everything. The process, if the process is sound and the input is correct, the output is going to be correct. And it's going to be
Huh.
more valuable whether or not you know the answer right away. So
Huh.
so that's how they operate. Again, very engineer mindset.
Yeah.
And that's how I got through it. 8 interviews later, they flew me out to Seattle, and I was hired. But that's how it all came about. And then I ended up leaving so I can build my own agency because I
Yeah.
didn't want to work for Amazon 80 hours a week and not see my family. So that's kind
Exactly.
of that's how kind of it all came about.
That's really fascinating. I always love hearing the stories about how these large corporations and their hiring process is. And Google goes to the extent of putting neurodivergent people, like people that think differently. So an engineer and a creative into a same team and go, here, go do it. Each one of these large corporations, these really high level corporations, have completely different ways of doing the hiring process. And I love to hear behind the scenes on that, just to get so I was kind of curious about that because I think we can put some of that I think it's very different running a multi-billion dollar corporation than it is running a $500,000 corporation per year. But I think we can
100%.
take some of that stuff and integrate it into what we do, or even into our mindset. There's a reason why they do it that way, you know. So it makes total
Totally
sense.
agree.
Yeah,
Even if you do it from a process perspective, right? Like if you're running essentially, again, a podcast, and
yeah,
now you have this process in place where, like, okay, this is how we're gonna accrue the candidates, and this is how we're gonna do the follow up, and this is how the preliminary research on those people are gonna go, and you build it into a process or into a sub segmentation of inputs and outputs. Is like, if we do this, what do we get? If we do that, what do we get? And now
hmm,
you put it in a streamline of, again, processes that give you the entire sequence of event. Dude, that I think in anything where you create a good process gives you, and not to sound redundant, but it gives you the ability to really not only expand but also scale your business. And I think, Amazon has nailed it in anything that they do, whether it is recruiting or coming up with new products and new ideas. Everything is essentially broken down into a well-developed process that they
hmm,
know whether or not it's going to succeed, simply because of the inputs that they have given and the data that they have given. So
true.
I agree. It's fascinating how they do it, but more importantly, can we apply it on our everyday life? And if we can, then we can succeed a lot faster and a lot better than most people.
Absolutely. So I want to move on to something else that you're working on. So Dall'Italia, can you tell us a little bit about that and what that is?
Yeah. So Dall'Italia came as a passion project last year, in January of last year. Dall'Italia, or Dall'Italia, it pronounced in the Italian, in the Italian accent.
Of course.
The idea is to build a mini Amazon for Italian products.
Hmm.
So I found a niche market within that particular segmentation. Some people ask me, like, why Italian products? So Italians are true masters of their craftsmanship. If you go
Hmm.
into anything Italian, whether it is fashion or shoes or luggage or coffee or wine, they
Hmm.
want to be the best they can be at that particular craftsmanship. And then the other portion is that it's a multi-generational approach. So
Hmm.
if you notice, some of the brands that are in Italy, they have been in business for 100 years, right?
Mhm.
We have one in the hair care category. It's a 3 generation company.
Mhm.
And what I love about that is that each generation essentially makes the products better or polishes some sort of ingredient formulation or idea behind the products that make it more affordable and better quality, and the ingredients are at the highest level, and they go through a rigorous process of understanding how to make the products more relatable to the customers. But they're lousy marketers and entrepreneurs when it comes online. So
Huh.
yeah, so I saw, okay, great products, great ingredients, great formulations, great ability to essentially get long lasting customers, but they don't do the storytelling well online. Okay, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna grab all these products, I'm gonna turn them into an online presence platform, and only sell the products in the United States. We're trying to go into Canada and Mexico, but there's some complexities in those marketplaces. So right now we're focusing on bringing the best Italian products to market from directly from Italy into our US marketplace. We're heavy right now in beauty products. That's where essentially I've accrued a lot of my expertise over the last 7 years.
Mhm.
But we're tapping also into fashion, luggage, shoes, and on the other horizon, we're going into coffee, more consumable products, coffee, wine, pasta, any type of sauces or condiments. So eventually, we want to have an all-inclusive store, Italian-related products, and
Mhm.
anything that you go in there, is genuine. It comes directly from Italy, highest standards of manufacturing and ingredients and formulation.
Mhm.
And it's something new that we can bring into the market that doesn't truly exist yet.
Huh.
The plan is that 5 year approach, get it as big as we can, and then potentially sell it in the next 5 to 6 years. So it's
Awesome.
again a clear view of where I want to be and where the business wants to be taken to. But if that could be the factor of that niche category, yet ample enough where we can sell anything related to Italy, then we'll do so.
Oh, that's awesome. And then you've also got a podcast too, on top of all of that, Faith Front Lines and Fortune, and also a podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, how'd that start?
So interestingly enough, again, the passion project it's taken its own course. Majority of my time is devoted to that. Trispel, which is our agency that works with Amazon optimization,
Mm.
it's again well staffed. Anna is the C. I hired a CEO. She's phenomenal. She handles pretty much the entire business and just provide more mentorship and guidance.
Good.
And then the podcast portion truly came from interviewing some people that gave us great stories behind their brands. They have also great stories like you and I, where we were like, hey, this is not where I was going to go, but it turned out to be a great opportunity. And then
Uh-huh.
my wife loved it. So there's always a story behind it. I'm very much like you that you want to know the story behind the entrepreneurs. We want to know the story behind entrepreneurs and how they came about with the idea of building a beauty product, or what do you think the next 5 years of beauty look like, and what are some of the new technologies. So to me, I was very interested on the idea of understanding people's journey, just
Mm.
like you do in yours. But then it's a very telling process of where the industry is going. So if
Mm.
I interview 10, 20, 30 people in the beauty category, and 10 of them are in the skincare category, everybody's going to have their opinions. But once you start analyzing what they have in common,
Uh,
all that is going to give me the pattern of the future. And
yeah.
if I understand really what the pattern of the future is, it'll help us do a bunch of things like create our own new products or collaborate with those people on the podcast to build something new, or truly be an orchestrator of the industry, right?
Mm.
And to me, like an orchestrator will be, hey, John, you need help with inventory solutions or manufacturing. I interviewed this guy the other day who was phenomenal at that. Let me connect you to, and
Mm.
just truly provide a service for those who essentially don't have that acumen, right? That ability to connect the dots with people. So again, that's a second passion project to me. That one is like to provide service for others that unfortunately my other two businesses do not do, and build relationships. And I think we lost that essence
Yeah.
of relationships. We live in a very transactional world of today, of today's day and age, where what can you do for me? And I want to flip the narrative and say, what can I do for you? How can I be of your service? And anytime that I've done that, man, again, God and everything else has turned positively for me, because essentially I get that plus some more. So not that I'm looking for any type of reciprocity, but it's just given. Anytime that you serve some others and you do it with pleasure, it may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, maybe next month or next year, but you always get something back and you get it tenfold. So for me, that's a reason behind the podcast. D'Alitalia is more a venture where I can build it, grow it, and sell it in the next 5 years. And then Trisbel is essentially a self-driven car that fortunately pays the bills
Yeah.
and feeds the family. So I think, having those three buckets where it's like
Mhm.
the lights on, thinking about the future and the future for my family, and something that, again, it's bigger than me. And then another project where it gives me the ability to serve and,
Mhm.
excuse me, and to give back. That to me extremely important in my lifestyle.
Absolutely. So, as we're wrapping up towards the end of things, I do have one question that I ask everyone, and that is, what is one podcast or book that has had a major impact on your life, talking about giving back, that you'd like to give back to the audience?
Well, besides your podcast,
I appreciate that. Thank you.
besides Hustle and Grind, I
Exactly.
would say From Good to Great it's a phenomenal book. From Good to Great, just to summarize them without giving anything away, it's understanding really where A class leaders are essentially built and how they're built. So it's not just to be a leader or the guy that, gets in front of the camera or the guy that makes the money. Is how do you build your community or your team for people not only to be inspired by you, but also want to get at that same level
Mhm.
where they're great leaders for their own community and organization. So it breaks it down into what an A class leader looks like, but then it does something phenomenally with, again, an analogy and a storytelling portion, which is great leaders are like the drivers of a particular of a school bus. And if you're the driver of this bus and you have the right people in the right, you have the right people in the bus, the wrong people out of the bus, and the right people in the right seat, it doesn't matter where that bus goes, you're gonna be covered, right? So if you go in this crazy bus to an adventure in Yellowstone and then you break down, you got a mechanic in there. Or
Uh-huh.
if somebody has a heart attack, you got a doctor in the bus. So the analogy serves well to really understand that being a great leader is not just being the charismatic guy that has the answers, but build a team that knows what they're doing, that is excited about your mission and they're in that mission with you, and people who are excited about doing the job and serving in that particular mission with you. And it doesn't matter where you go, you'll
Mhm.
be covered because the individuals that you hire from that organization are going to do what's best for the organization and to build some legacy. So I think that book just, breaks it down from a business perspective of where you need to be, how you need to be as a leader, and whether or not you're the leader. If you're supporting the leader, then you have a role, and that role is to ensure that your leader accomplishes the mission, because if he does, then you do as well. So I think it does a great job of amplifying that particular leadership role and how to get there, and
Mhm.
how to build companies in a way that, again, provide that legacy and they're long lasting.
Awesome. Well, Anderson, thank you so much for being on the show today. I really appreciate the wisdom you've dropped. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks again for joining us on the Hustle and Grind podcast. If you'd like to learn more about Anderson, check out the link in the description.